Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. We're going to start rolling out our position previews for the 2025 fantasy football season. And what better way to do it than to include some of our top players from the site? So I'm going to do that for all the position previews. I'm really looking forward to it here in the coming days and releasing them in our draft guide and on our site. So it's going to be a lot of fun getting the opinions of some of our top players. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. And our first guest is going to be Pete Valiotis. So I'm going to bring Pete up right now. Pete actually won the TFC last year, $500,000. He is the fourth rated player on our site overall out of all the users on RTSports. He's finished 10th in the TFC as well. He's won the RTFC Red as well. So he has quite the laundry list of accomplishments. And we've had him on before, and he's always a great guest. Pete, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well. So we're going to attack this quarterback preview, Pete. And I think, quite frankly, it seems like it's every year, but it's deep again this year. And I think there's some good choices and different strategies to be had. So it should be a lot of fun to go over all these different topics.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting with the quarterback position. I kind of almost see three distinct strategies that you could apply.
Yep.
And, I'm sure we'll go through them. I kind of see kind of the early quarterback, the mid-round quarterback, and kind of the what do you do if you wait on quarterback strategy, all of which I think could be effective.
So ironically, that's my first question. So what are you doing? I know you've done several drafts already. Are you going to go early? Are you going to try to get one of those elite top 5 guys that kind of stand out above the rest? Are you going to wait till the middle rounds and get some options there? There's a host of them there. Are you going to wait really late and maybe try to get 2 or 3 on your roster and try to piece it together week to week? What are you going to do?
I've kind of been fluid with it. I've done all of them, right? Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the early quarterback strategy. And usually I don't even look at a quarterback on the board till about the beginning of round 4. And we're talking about the TFC now, dual flex. If you get to the beginning of round 4 and you don't like the options available to you, meaning at the position players, you're not thrilled with anybody. That's when I start looking at guys like Lamar and Allen if they're still on the board. You can throw Jaden Daniels into the mix there. He generally goes around where Jackson and Allen go. However, with Daniels, we might have to be a little bit careful now because we don't know what the McLaurin situation is. And I think McLaurin needs to be there, in order for Daniels to kind of justify that draft position. Then after that, kind of in that, maybe this a slight next tier down, you have Burrow and Hurts, right? Burrow, you maybe start thinking about at the end of the 4th round. Some people will even go mid 4th round Burrow, and Hurts for me, if he's there in the mid 5th, is somebody I would consider. So that's kind of like the early strategy. If I miss on those guys, or if I like other players better, then I would consider like the next tier strategy, which I think there's 2 players in that next tier from my perspective. And that's Mahomes, who I've been getting a lot of 7th round Mahomes, and that is probably one of my preferred strategies because he's had a couple of bad years in a row. So, and the price reflects that. So if you get Mahomes in the 7th round and you believe that he's kind of going to turn it around this year with maybe better receiving options, assuming Rice isn't out for too long, I think Mahomes is a great option. And then Mayfield is a good 8th round option. Sometimes, 7th, 8th, maybe even creeps into the 9th round. So that's kind of the mid-tier option. And then lastly is if you wait on quarterback, you can get guys like Nix or Kyler Murray in the 9th and 10th round. Maybe Caleb Williams if you want to kind of take a shot on the potential there. And in the 12th round, like you get to the 12th round and you're talking about guys like Prescott, which I think is an incredible value if you can get Prescott in the 11th or 12th round.
Agreed.
Herbert, Purdy, guys like that. So you can win with any of these strategies. I feel like if I wait, I tend to take 2. In a draft I just did, I got Murray in the 10th round and Prescott in the 12th round. So I figure between those 2 guys, I might even like Prescott better than Murray. So between those 2 guys, I'll rotate them, depending on matchups.
So I'm like you. I think it's kind of fluid. I've used all 3 of these strategies, and I feel like you can have success with them. And I feel like also we've run the numbers. We do this on our site. We have the ability to look and see how people did if they took a quarterback early, if they waited, or if they waited really long. And it's pretty even across the board. There was not a distinct advantage at all to being the first person to take a QB last year. And it just shows that I think you can win with any strategy. And it's one of the few positions where I think it's like that, because I feel like other ones are a little more distinct when it comes to value. So I think the QB one is one that I'm just going to kind of play, but let it go by, play it by ear a little bit and see how it plays out. And if those early ones are there and I'm drafting, I feel good about them, I'm going to take them. If not, I'm just going to wait. And I love Prescott, as you mentioned, Justin Herbert as well. These are two of my favorite targets. I may talk about them a little later. So I think you can win with any strategy. And that's kind of the way I feel about the QB this year. And I'm not sure that's always the case with every position. So
I totally agree with you. And like you were talking about the differences in position, like, if you take a position like running back, I feel that running back by the end of the 6th round, the options start to get very,
you're
very
right.
dicey there. Even toward like the mid to late 6th round, all the guys have certain issues, right? Quarterback, you can find quarterbacks. You can find quarterbacks in the 14th or 15th round that I think will perform.
Yep, for sure.
So
you mentioned it a little bit already. It seems like Jackson and Allen, and I guess Daniels is. You see him kind of mixed in that group as well. But they're the first two off the board, and then it's Daniels, Burrow, and Hurts. So you're looking at those next three. Go a couple rounds later. Who do you like out of those three? Which one would you prefer to have on your roster?
If you're going to make me pick one, first of all, I like all of them, and I've drafted all of them, and I think you'd be successful with all of them. There's a bit of Daniels is the most expensive, or at least has been in the drafts I had. Burrow is kind of that middle tier, and Hurts sometimes you can get in the mid to late 5th round. So I like I like all those guys if you can get them on value. If you had to make me pick between one of them, and this is assuming that McLaurin is actually going to be in the mix, it'd probably be Daniels. But right now I have a little hesitancy to draft him because if this McLaurin thing lingers on and Debo is the number 1 receiver there, I think that could potentially be problematic despite Daniel's obvious talents. So you can't go wrong with Burrow. I mean, he's got Chase, he's got Higgins, he's got good tight end play, and he's going to throw the ball a ton. So like Burrow in many ways might be your most consistent option.
So that's my pick out of those three. I'm going to go Burrow just because of what you mentioned. They're going to throw the ball a ton. He led the league in passing yards last year, passing touchdowns, second overall in fantasy quarterback scoring, and he's not a running quarterback. So that's encouraging to me when you see those huge numbers on a weekly basis. And he led the league in pass attempts, and he had just 9 interceptions on the season, which is crazy to me. So he's so accurate. He throws the ball a ton. They got great weapons. So I'm probably going to lean Burrow, although most times I like to go with that running QB just because of the consistency, but I give Burrow the edge here.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing about Cincinnati, right? Their defense hasn't really gotten that much better.
That's true.
They're going to be in a lot of high scoring games. And I actually think toward the end of the year, Chase Brown started to catch the ball in the backfield well. He started to provide a pretty decent outlet to Burrow, kind of another receiving option. So you can't go wrong with Joe Burrow. And even Jalen Hurts, you get good value on Hurts. You get the tush push. The tush push points. And I honestly think that Philadelphia is going to focus on maybe throwing the ball a little bit more this year. Saquon's getting a little older. I'm not sure if they want him to have the same rush attempts he did last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hurts actually throws the ball a little bit more this year. So honestly, I like all those guys.
Yeah. So on the flip side of things, how about, looking at our ADP, the top 10 QBs out there, who are you avoiding? Is there anybody in that group that you don't want any part of at this point?
All right. So we've already kind of talked about the top 5. And then I'd put Mayfield and Mahomes, and you can probably be 6 and 7. And then after that, ADP wise, it's probably like Nixon, Murray to get you up to 9, right? Then who's 10? I don't really know. Right.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Jeff, I've drafted all those guys. So there's nobody I'm flat out avoiding.
Okay.
However, there's guys that I have concern about, or maybe minor concerns. And it's one of those, if I draft one of those guys, I'm going to try to maybe protect them, with a good backup. Howard's probably going to kill me for this, but one of the guys that, that say a concern is not the right word, but I'm actually a little bit of a believer in the sophomore slump at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Last year at this time, who have we not talked about yet? We haven't talked about CJ Stroud, right? This is a
Yeah.
guy that was getting drafted in the 6th round last year, right? A rough year. He's missing Nico Collins for a good portion of the year, lost Stephon Diggs, basically lost Tank Dell, and everybody thinks the guy can't play anymore, right? Bit of a sophomore slump with Stroud.
Yeah.
I could see kind of the league, has seen Knicks play a little bit. Will the league catch up to him a little bit? I could see the potential of that happening. That said, I'm not going to avoid him because I love the guy's upside too. He's a guy that you can get in the 9th round that provides you with kind of that rushing potential that guys further up the draft do, but you're not paying the price, for that. So he's a guy, Knicks is a guy that if I draft, I might in the 9th or 10th round, I might just draft Prescott or Purdy or Herbert in the 12th round, have a good backup. Kyler Murray, I'm going to give he's an interesting one too, meaning Kyler's kind of a bit psychotic sometimes. You get great games from him. He'll tease you into believe, he teases you with those games, and then, then you'll get some not so great games from him. So if you're looking for consistency, Kyler might not be my favorite. But he's got weapons this year, though.
Yeah.
I think Marv takes a step, Trey McBride. So
I'm
I guess
like
I've given you an answer. I'm not avoiding anybody. There's just guys I would, I'm getting a good backup if I draft them.
That's kind of my reasoning. And I hate to even say this guy because I feel like he could lead the fantasy leagues, the fantasy QBs in scoring. But right now, just because of the Terry McLaurin thing, Jaden Daniels just kind of scares me for the price tag.
Yeah.
And I just hate the fact that Debo might be his number one. I don't know what he has left. I mean,
Have you seen Debo? Have you seen Debo?
Yeah,
he looks like a fullback right now.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not looking great. No, go ahead. No, but you're right. Yeah, it's just a concern for me. The rushing stuff just totally helps his consistency, though. So I don't think he's going to be a bust by any means. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I'm just saying for the price tag right now, I just don't know if I want to spend that. I think I'd rather get Burrow or Hurts a round or two later than Daniels, in my opinion. So I'm just kind of avoiding him right now. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he led all QBs in fantasy scoring. I just think when you look at the top options, I think he has the most risk. So it just depends how you want to play it. So for me, again, I'm not totally avoiding him. I'm just a little concerned about Jaden Daniels.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. It's mostly the McLaurin thing for me because they don't have. It's not like if you look like Pat Mahomes, right? If Rashee Rice gets suspended for 5-6 games, at least you have Worthy and Hollywood Brown to kind of maybe and Travis Kelce to kind of fill the gap a little bit, until Rice gets back. Who do you really have in Washington? So Ertz, Debo, so I agree with your concern about that one.
I even thought Dimey Brown was decent last year, and he's gone as well. So maybe Luke McCaffrey takes a step forward.
Yeah, it's true. He's he's got the genes, right?
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about the different strategies. So if you're going to wait, if you're going to look at a middle round option, I think it's a super crowded group, but there's a lot of great guys to pick from. You got Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love. I'm even leaving guys out, but out of that group, those middle round options, really crowded, but who do you like out of that set of QBs?
Well, I'm not going to give you, we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I think a lot of the experts agree on this, so I'm not really going out on a limb by saying this. I really like Prescott. And I mean, for kind of some of the obvious reasons, right? He's got CeeDee Lamb, he's got Pickens, he's got Ferguson, a good tight end, and I'm not really confident in Dallas's ability to run the ball this year. I'm not confident in any of those backfield options. I see them having the potential to fall behind. So I can see Prescott. I think it's a possibility he could be a top 5, 6, 7 fantasy QB by the end of the year because of the situation. Now, so he's the guy I think has the most upside of that group. Herbert, you mentioned him, and I like Justin Herbert. And I'm going to kind of loop him in with Jared Goff a little bit because I think these teams are similar. if you look at the Detroit Lions and the Chargers, they have coaches that like to run the ball, right?
Yep.
So you get a guy like Jared Goff. He's going to have his big weeks, but he's also going to have weeks where Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery took the rock a lot. Herbert, it's kind of similar with them. I kind of almost see a similar scenario where I think the Chargers, assuming Najee Harris isn't blind here and he eventually gets back on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Charger, Jim Harbaugh loves to run the ball, right?
Yeah.
Is Herbert going to put up big numbers? Is he going to give you your 30, 35-point weeks? No, right? Will he be consistent? Yeah, I think he's a consistent, solid backup. Is the upside capped by the coach's philosophy? Maybe a little bit. But are you going to be disappointed with 13th round Justin Herbert, maybe using him as part of a kind of a quarterback duo, rotating duo? No, I don't think you will be. So
Yeah, I agree. And I'm like you. I'm going to echo your sentiments on Dak Prescott. That's my pick as well. I have a ton of shares of him right now, I feel like, especially if I get CeeDee Lamb in the first round, which is kind of a target of mine also because for the same reasons I like Prescott, I like Lamb, and I just love having that combo, especially if I'm going to play in a big championship like the Fantasy Life Championship as well, to have that combo points for the playoffs, and you can kind of really take advantage of those big passing days then. So Prescott's my guy as well. I really could see him pushing 5,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns. Like you mentioned, I think he can be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. And you can get him. His ADP right now is 110. So, I mean, that's like 10th, 11th round. And if I'm doing the strategy too, I do not hesitate at all to go back-to-back QBs. So taking a Prescott and then maybe follow that up with Justin Herbert, as you mentioned, or even a CJ Stroud. I like taking a chance on him this year. Jordan Love also. So I don't mind. I know it's kind of scary when you have to try to figure out who to use each week. But if I'm waiting that long on a QB, I think that I want to try to optimize my chances for points on a weekly basis. So I don't mind it all double tapping there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. A guy that we haven't talked about, and maybe he's kind of in between the kind of Nick Murray and the tier that we were just talking about, is I don't know what to make of Caleb Williams this year. That one has kind of a large disparity as to kind of what can happen with him, right? If you look at the web, and he might be worth taking a shot on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're going to draft a solid backup, if you're going to go with your plan of double banging quarterbacks, maybe it's worth taking a shot at Caleb. Look at the receivers there: DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. I mean, he has all the weapons there for him to be successful. The question is he going to catch on to this Ben Johnson offense? I could see him blowing up, or I could see him being a total bust. So if you like to roll the dice, Caleb Williams might be a decent.
I agree with you. I agree. And it seems like to me, it seems like he's falling maybe a tad more than he did in early drafts. So I think that's advantageous if you want to take him, because then you could, follow that up with getting somebody you feel a little more safe about later on in the draft as well. Because you're right, the boom potential is definitely there with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
So how about later round options? So if you're really going to wait on a QB, we talked about this strategy too. You got the middle round, then you got the later round. So we got guys, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Bryce Young, Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson, who it looks like, unfortunately, he got hurt tonight. I don't know the severity of that injury yet, but they were playing and he got banged up. I think it was a finger, but Michael Penix too. So if you're going to wait later on a QB, who do you like that taking a chance on there later in drafts?
Yeah. Well, assuming we're not including CJ Stroud in this tier.
He's probably,
I saw him in the tier.
It's close. It's close.
I saw him go in the 16th round yesterday. Right. But
wow.
I am a big CJ bounce back guy. I mean, so I just figured I'll throw that out there, and then let's talk about the kind of next tier. You heard me talk about JJ McCarthy and my kind of belief in JJ McCarthy. I'm biased. The news out of camp with him is kind of mixed, right?
Yeah.
But I do think he has the weapons there to succeed. It might not be right away with JJ. It might take 3-4 weeks, but I could see him growing into that role and with the weapons he has, I could see him being very productive. He's got good legs too. JJ can run the ball. One guy that you didn't mention that I wonder about, and this is kind of a deep sleeper, maybe even maybe even 18th, 19th round, is Cam Ward. I wonder about him.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. I think Cam Ward, drafted number 1 overall, nobody talks about him, and this guy potentially has the right mindset to be successful right away. All he talks about is football, right?
Yeah.
He's like a football robot. He's like kind of like the Ivan Drago of the kind of the NFL. He doesn't talk about anything but football. And I can see Cam Ward with his skill and his mindset. I could see him being a guy that kind of towards the end of the year produces pretty well. Decent receiving core there. Your guy, Calvin Ridley, I think will have a good year. Bryce Young, they've given him some weapons. They given him Ted McMillan. I mean, he still has, he still has Adam Thielen there, and why am I forgetting his name right now? The raccoon eater, the guy that eats the game, like Xavier Legette.
Oh, right? Yeah, Xavier Legette.
He eats all this exotic game from his backyard. I could see those guys being guys that you draft late that are going to pay off the price. So
that's my pick. You just mentioned him, Bryce Young. So he had 20 total touchdowns and 6 interceptions his last 10 games last season. That was with Adam Thielen as his number 1 receiver, who I feel like, although he's produced well the last couple of years, he's lost a step. And now he gets Ted McMillan as his number 1, a legit number 1 receiver. We saw what these number 1 receivers did last year. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. These are guys that can get 100 catches as rookies. So I think Ted McMillan has a possibility to do that, and I think that's just going to help Young. They improved the offensive line as well a little bit. So I think Young set up for some good things this year. I think if you want to wait, and I like getting him a lot if I'm going to go early on a QB. So if I get a Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson,
then Bryce Young is your backup. I agree with that.
I know some people might not even take a backup in that case in some of your standard leagues, but for the most part, I normally do.
I agree with you. And I feel like our perception has changed as to how quickly quarterbacks develop. It used to be that if you're a guy like Bryce Young, you come in a league, maybe you struggle a little bit as a rookie and you kind of start to get better in your second year. The third year, a lot of times for a quarterback, was the year that they really kind of came into their own. Now we don't have that same patience anymore. Right.
You're right.
There was people calling Bryce Young a bust at, the beginning of last year. Now, sometimes you can maybe see it, right? I don't think this guy's going to work out, but I agree with you. I think Young could have I think he could have a very good year. Would I draft him as my starter? No. Right. Yeah. Would I be comfortable with him if he was my number 1? Maybe not necessarily right out of the gate, but I could see him developing into that, like a very solid, low cost backup. So I agree with you.
So everybody loves sleepers. And before I let you go, this is my last question. I mean, we're talking maybe super flex leagues where you're taking 3 QBs and you're really getting to the bottom of the barrel here. Is there anybody that you want to take a dart throw on, super late, maybe a super flex league as your 3rd QB?
Yeah. All right. Who would I want to take as a dart throw? So let's say you're in a super flex league and you've kind of waited too long. You have 2 quarterbacks and maybe you don't even have a 3rd starter. Right? Yeah. You look at kind of situations around the league and where teams have maybe kind of maybe a good backup, a backup with potential, and maybe the starter isn't that strong. This is, when I think about it, one I want to mention, and this is kind of, they have a strong starter and a guy that we've been talking about a lot in Dak Prescott, but Dak has had some injury concerns. And, there's this guy there, Joe Milton, right? That I used to not like very much. The whole thing about Joe Milton was if you needed a 50-yard pass, he would throw a 50-yard pass. And if you needed a 20-yard pass, he would throw a 50-yard pass. So, but, it's interesting. You're seeing, he played a game at the end of last year. He looked really good. The Patriots loved him. The Cowboys seem to love him right now. He could throw the ball a country mile. And he's seen developing into a bit of a quarterback. I'm not telling you Joe Milton's going to play it all this year. However, he might be a guy, if I have space, that I kind of park on the bench and in a super flex league.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a fourth quarterback just to see,
I
if
like
Dak
that.
gets, it's but I'm not telling you in a normal league as a
Yeah.
second quarterback, And another one, if you think Sam Darnold, if you think last year was a mirage and you're waiting for Sam Darnold to turn into a pumpkin, at midnight, maybe Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, I watch a lot of college football. And the funny thing about Jalen Milroe is you'd watch him one week and he would look like a world beater. Right. Then you watch him next week and it looks like he can't play. So I don't know what to make of Jalen Milroe, but I do know he's in a situation where the quarterback, is Darnold had a great year. And I'm not disparaging Darnold right now, but really when you think about it, that was his first good year. Right. Was it a flash in the pan? I don't know. One more, and these are really deep guys, Jeff. I'm not.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
Good
And,
stuff.
Miami, right? You got Tua that has concussion problems. I think Zach Wilson is their backup right now, right? And they drafted Quinn Ewers, a guy that before last year's college football season, he had a lot more hype around him. And then he kind of has a so-so bland senior year in college, drops way down the draft. I'm not even sure if he got drafted, but he's with Miami now, and you're hearing some good things about him, right?
Yeah.
So, if Tua gets hurt there, do they go with Zach Wilson? Or if Quinn Ewers is kind of tearing it up and doing well, does he get a shot? Those are really deep guys. I'm not suggesting anybody draft them in any, normal leagues. However, in super flex leagues, if you have a big roster, dynasty leagues, if you have a spot for them, maybe one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I like all three of those picks.
I'm likely to be wrong in all of them. So just saying that right now.
You went with a young guy, and you went with three young guys, and I'm going to give you a really old guy that I'll take a chance on. That's Joe Flacco. So, I mean, why not? I think he's going to start at least to open the season. He's going to sling the ball around. 12 touchdowns in 6 starts last year. I think the Browns could be playing from behind, and their games are not very good. And as long as he's starting, he's always capable of the big games. So I don't mind taking a chance on Joe Flacco.
I totally agree with you about that one. I mean, like if you look at what he did when he came in for Deshaun Watson, what he did for David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy, all right? And even when he went to Indianapolis, he wasn't particularly good there, but look what he did for Josh Downs, right? When he was playing as opposed to Anthony Richardson. So, I'm fully with you on Joe Flacco. You might have the games where he gets to throw 6 interceptions, but
that's true.
Effective games though too. So
well, Pete, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on and talking QB with me and getting all of our viewers out there ready for the season at this vital position. It was a lot of fun for sure, and I appreciate you coming on as always.
Jeff, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Pete. All right. That was Pete Valiotis, the winner of the TFC last year, won $500,000, fourth rated player on our site. He's a great player, and you should definitely take heed to his advice that he gave on these QBs. Just great stuff from him. And I appreciate everybody out there for watching the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. And that has been the quarterback preview, and we will get to all the positions with a different expert in the coming days. Thanks again for watching. This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.